Thank you for the opportunity to speak for just a few moments. We're all here today because we share a vision to improve our correctional systems and reentry process. Thank you, Governor Deal, for changing the conversation and the momentum that you have created with reform. Like many of you, my journey with criminal justice began with my faith. I am a follower of Christ. I am a minister in the community. I take very seriously the teaching of Christ, and there is no ambiguity about the priorities of Jesus. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was sick, and you looked after me. And I was in prison, and you visited me. Jesus' first public teaching, he grabbed the scroll of Isaiah in the temple, and he quoted, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, to set the oppressed free." It's not lost on me that Jesus was crucified between two thieves, two felons. They sat on death row together. Prison ministry was not an auxiliary or peripheral mission of Jesus. It was his agenda. And it's a commitment to that faith idea that led me to start a church that almost exclusively invests its time, staff, financial resources into a faith-based transitional program called NSPIRE Outreach that works with the marginalized and the disenfranchised. The folks who knock on our door in need of our program services are homeless, they have limited education, they have a mental health diagnosis that has led to addiction and substance abuse, and usually have a felony background. We work with county jails, state prisons, and even federal prisons as a viable reentry option. We even work with the accountability courts here in Gwinnett. So after 20 years of serving in this space, we've began to realize that there are two primary forces at work. There is behavior, and then there is structure. In our program, we work on the individual's behavioral issues to change their lives, but we've also noticed that you have to look at the big picture. There's a macroscopic perspective. There is a structure and a system at work. My deep dive into this structure has made me aware that it is underpinned by policy and legislation. It was that revelation that led me to run for elected office. I am now a state representative, passionately trying to positively impact continued criminal justice reform. I really have no political ambition, never have, but I do care about people, and in particular, I care about these people, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, the folks that all of us care about in this room. I'm using my new political position to get an even deeper look into our state systems and the state structure. I have met with all the relevant agencies. I have them in my phone now. We're on a first name basis. I have regular communication with Department of Corrections, Community Supervision, Pardon and Parole. I'm in the middle of touring all of our state prisons, of which there are 34. I'm about halfway through that list. We'll finish the other half up after session. The combination of my work at NSPIRE and now as a legislator has granted me greater access and proximity to this structure and system, which has created a greater understanding. Understand literally means to stand under. You can't understand something until you're close enough to stand under it. From a distance, it looks one way, but when you get up close and personal, it's a completely different perspective of understanding. So I have 4 remarks. When you stand under our prison system, you understand the connection between educational performance and incarceration. We have roughly 60,000 prisoners in our state system, and as Governor Deal mentioned, most of them are school dropouts with a very low literacy rate. Literacy is almost a perfect spot-on predictor of the way that a person's life will turn out. It is commonly known that 3rd grade is the greatest predictor. A child who is not reading on level by 3rd grade is significantly more likely to spend time in corrections. Some states have even used this metric to determine future prison populations and prison construction. Bottom line, if you're not reading on level at 9 years old, we're going to build you a jail or a prison cell. What is alarming is that right now, 2/3 of Georgia 3rd graders are not reading on level. We have a crisis on our hands. When you stand under our prison system, you understand that our correctional system is filled with the poor. The overwhelming majority of men and women who are locked up in our state were represented by a public defender. They did not have the financial means to lawyer up. They had to take what they could, which is often inadequate. I know that many of our prisoners, if they had the economic ability for a top-tier attorney, would not have even been convicted and most certainly would not have received the sentence they received. I am in complete agreement with Brian Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy. I'm sure you're familiar with the film that's just come out. Brian says that in our current criminal justice system, you are treated better if you are rich and guilty than if you are poor and innocent. Therefore, wealth not culpability, is determining our judicial outcomes. Thirdly, when you stand under our prison system, you understand that people of color are overrepresented in our corrections. Nationwide, we have more African American men that are justice involved in our correctional control system. There's more African American men today in corrections than were enslaved in 1850. In the state of Georgia, African Americans represent 30% of our general population. They represent 61% of our prison population. It's not that people of color are more criminal in nature. This ratio reveals that we have racial bias in our system from beginning to end. Finally, when you stand under our prison system, you understand the connection between mental health and incarceration. The number one provider of mental health services in our state is Georgia State Prisons. More than Viewpoint Health, more than Georgia Regional, more than the psychiatric wards of our hospitals. Georgia is number 47 out of 50 in terms of overall mental health access and care. One mental health watchdog ranks us as number 50 for access of care to adults. And when you don't support it on the front end, we are locking it up on the back end. So when we inventory our state prison population, one could argue that we have criminalized poverty, that we have criminalized race, and we have criminalized mental health. I want to again thank everyone in this room who is working hard for criminal justice solutions. I'm deeply grateful for the work that has been done, but make no mistake, there is still a lot of work to be done, and I look forward to serving with you. Thank you, GGRA, for this venue.